I'm David Lazarus in for Pat Morrison, and we're going to shift gears here and look at the inauguration of President-elect Barack Obama. Already some controversy being stirred. He has selected the Reverend Rick Warren, the evangelical pastor and author of The Purpose-Driven Life, to deliver the invocation at his inauguration. Now, Southern California-based Rick Warren is a controversial pick because he is, among other things, an outspoken opponent of abortion and same-sex marriage. And in that sense, this is looked at as an olive branch to conservative Christian evangelicals. When President-elect Obama was asked about this at a news conference this morning, here's what he said.
I think that it is no secret that I am a fierce advocate for equality for gay and lesbian Americans. It is something that I have been consistent on, and something that I intend to continue to be consistent on during my presidency. What I've also said is that it is important for America to come together, even though we may have disagreements on certain social issues.
Your thoughts on whether President-elect Obama's approach to the big tent for his inauguration is appropriate, especially when inviting Reverend Rick Warren, a known opponent of same-sex marriage and abortion, to speak and essentially anoint him as the new Billy Graham. Is that an appropriate gesture for his first day in office? 866-893-5722 or 866-893-KPCC. Let's hear very briefly how Rick Warren presents his positions.
I'm opposed to having a brother and sister be together and call that marriage. I'm opposed to an older guy marrying a child and calling that a marriage. I'm opposed to one guy having multiple wives and calling that marriage.
Do you think those are equivalent to gays getting married?
Oh, I do. I just say, for 5,000 years, marriage has been defined by every single culture and every single religion. This is not a Christian issue. Buddhist, Muslims, Jews, historically, marriage is a man and a woman.
That's Southern California's Reverend Rick Warren telling an interviewer why he opposes same-sex marriage. Your thoughts on President-elect Barack Obama inviting him to give the invocation at Obama's inauguration next month are welcome. 866-893-5722. We're also joined by Yashar Hedayat. He's president of the Goplin Group book publishers and former national finance co-chair for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. Mr. Hedayat, thank you very much for joining us.
Good to be back, David.
And your reaction to this decision?
Well, it certainly makes me very uncomfortable. This is not what President-elect Obama promised in his campaign. What Reverend Warren believes in is counter to what President-elect Obama believes in. And this is not a guy that just opposes same-sex marriage. Your clip just illustrated that this is a champion for the evangelical right. Reverend Warren is a champion for the folks that ran the Proposition 8 campaign here in California. This is highly inappropriate. You know, if he invited him to the White House to talk about issues related to Africa, and he's done some admirable work there, or faith issues, everyone would understand. You want to have a big tent when you're running the country. This is a major, major role. And it makes me very uncomfortable, and makes a lot of people uncomfortable.
But as you heard the president-elect say, this is all about us agreeing to be disagreeable when we need to be, and in that sense, what he's trying to do is send a message that we are one big happy family, albeit we don't always get along.
You can send that same message by inviting him to the White House to discuss the issues that I just mentioned. The inauguration is very personal, but it also sets the tone for your administration. If he had invited someone that disagreed on some policy issues, let's say the economy or stuff related to education, but this is major. This guy thinks that people like me and anyone who believes in a pro-equality America believe that polygamists should be able to marry as many people as they want, and that a brother and sister should be able to get married. It's a far cry from being moderate.
We're speaking with Yashar Hedayat. He's president of the Goplin Group book publishers and former national finance co-chair for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. We're talking about President-elect Barack Obama's decision to invite the Reverend Rick Warren, an outspoken opponent of same-sex marriage and abortion, to give the invocation at next month's inauguration. Your thoughts are very welcome. 866-893-5722. Jack calling from Riverside. Welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you for taking my call. As I mentioned to your screener, this is exactly why I voted for Barack Obama. There comes a time in our country when we have to stop the he versus we versus us versus them. And what I've liked about Obama from the second he announced that he was going to run, and I listened to what his platform and what he stood for, has been consistent. He reaches out across the aisle. You know, I'm a strong. I absolutely hated this whole yes on 8 thing. I mean, if two people fall in love, I don't care if it's a man and a woman or two men and two. It doesn't matter. People have the right to be happy in their life, and he supports that. I'll give you my opinion on abortion as soon as I get a womb. I really don't think I have an opinion on that because I shouldn't have a say on that, I don't believe.
All right, Jack, I appreciate your thoughts. Thank you. 866-893-5722. We're also joined by Yashar Hedayat. He's president of the Goplin Group Book Publishers, former national finance co-chair for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. Clearly, the gay community perceives this as an act of disrespect.
Absolutely. There's no question about it. I never want to get into this kind of comparison, but I think, judging by what your callers just said, I think it's important. Would President-elect Obama invite a minister who feels the same way that Rick Warren does about gay people, that felt the same way about, frankly, Jews, African Americans, Asian Americans? The position that Rick Warren's taking is not some sort of compassionate conservatism. He thinks that LGBT Americans, that he wants to put them in the same category as pedophiles, people who are polygamists, and so this is not some sort of moderate position that he's taking. I just frankly disagree that with gay marriage. This is a very hardline position. I don't think Obama would do this with someone who had anti-Israel views or anti-Jewish views. It just wouldn't happen.
866-893-5722. Curtis calling from Downey. Welcome to the program.
Hey, good afternoon. I gotta say, as a voter who voted yes on Prop 8, I did it for the simple reason. The language was in there to make it a hate crime, to preach Romans chapter 1. And that's what Rick Warren is against. He said that over and over and over again. If the gays are going to go to the extreme of making that hate speech because a pastor of a major evangelical church, and yes, Rick Warren is high profile, they're going to watch every word he says, and if he preaches Romans chapter 1 where it specifically says that homosexuality is wrong, it is against the Bible, you're going to take him away and put him in jail? How can that be? That was what he was against, and I'm tired of this militant gay agenda that's being taken place, targeting that restaurant owner in L.A. because she gave $100. She's a Mormon. But understand that like Rick Warren is saying, every single religion, Hindu, Buddha, Muslim, Christianity, Mormon, every one of them has said that marriage is between a man and a woman. And I just...
But Curtis, isn't the answer to that every human being should enjoy equal rights?
They have equal rights. They just don't have the right to redefine marriage. Now, that's what the majority of Californians voted for. They don't want the definition of marriage changed.
All right, Curtis, appreciate your thoughts. Thank you. 866-893-5722. Carrie calling from Newport Beach. Welcome to the program.
Hi. I just wanted to point out on the other end, at the benediction, Joseph Lowry will be offering that, and he offers completely contrasting views to Rick Warren.
Joseph Lowry is the co-founder with the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference.
Correct, and he will be someone that will completely turn off the conservatives. I mean, if you take a look at any YouTube video, he's going to be someone that they won't like.
So, Carrie, you're saying that balance has been maintained. Thank you very much. Yashar Hedayat, president of the Goplin Group Book Publishers. Well, I guess there is something to be said for the fact that clearly the Obama people have thought it through, and by putting Lowry in at the other end, they're able to say, look, we have the entire spectrum of ideology.
there are no shortages of moderate or even conservative ministers in our country. Rick Warren has a hard-line position on equality, pro-equality. He could have picked someone conservative who didn't make these sorts of comparisons. This is not a moderate guy. He may try to reform his image through some work in Africa and some poverty work here in America, which is admirable, but he's still very, very conservative. There are thousands of people to choose from.
All right,
Yashar
Hedayat, thank you very much for joining us.